Lisa Martinez stared at the tactical display with growing horror. Red dots filled the screen like angry stars, each one representing a HFY warship. 200 of them, maybe more. The alien fleet had dropped out of hyperspace 3 hours. Ego and now surrounded the mining colony of Kepler 442b like hungry wolves. How long until they reach effective weapons range? Lisa asked, trying to keep her voice steady. As colony administrator, she had dealt with supply shortages, equipment failures, and worker disputes. She had never prepared for war. Danny Brooks, the chief engineer, wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied his console. At their current speed, maybe 6 hours. Our defense platforms might buy us another 2 hours after that. Lisa nodded grimly. 8 hours. That was all the time they had left before 15,000 colonists faced extinction. The mining operation on Kepler 442b had been peaceful for 12 years. They extracted rare minerals from the planet's crust and shipped them back to Earth and other human colonies. Nobody expected the HFY Empire to care about one small human outpost. "What about our ships?" Lisa asked. Danny's expression grew darker. "We have 6 patrol boats and 2 cargo haulers. The cargo ships have no weapons. The patrol boats have light plasma cannons, enough to deal with pirates or asteroids. Against a HFY battle fleet..." He shrugged helplessly. Through the command center's windows, Lisa could see families hurrying along the covered walkways between habitat domes. Children pressed their faces against the transparent aluminum, pointing at the strange lights in the sky. They didn't understand that those lights meant death. Dr. Amy Sullivan entered the command center, her medical uniform stained with coffee. "I've prepared the hospital for casualties, but honestly, Lisa, if those ships start shooting..." She didn't finish the sentence. They all knew what HFY weapons could do to human bodies. "Send another distress call," Lisa ordered. "All frequencies, maximum power." "I've been broadcasting for 2 hours," replied their communications officer. "Nothing. The nearest human fleet is at Wolf 359, 3 weeks away at best. Even if they left right now..." Lisa walked to the communications station and activated the emergency beacon herself. Her hands shook as she began recording. "This is Administrator Lisa Martinez of Kepler 442b mining colony. We are under immediate threat from a large HFY fleet. 15,000 civilians need immediate evacuation or military assistance. We have minimal defensive capabilities. Please, if anyone receives this message, we need help. Our children need help." She paused, looking around the command center at the faces of people who had become her friends over the years. Danny had taught her daughter how to repair atmospheric processors. Amy had delivered 3 babies in the colony just last month. These weren't just colonists under her command. They were family. "We will defend ourselves as long as possible, but we cannot hold against this force. If you receive this message and cannot help, please remember us. Remember that we tried. Martinez, out." The message began broadcasting on all emergency frequencies, racing across space at the speed of light. Even if someone heard it, help would take days or weeks to arrive. The HFY would be done with their work in hours. 200 light-years away, aboard the experimental warship USS Vengeance, Captain Jake Morrison was finishing his daily reports when Lieutenant Beth Young burst into his ready room. "Captain, you need to hear this." Beth's usually calm demeanor had cracked. She activated her portable display, and Lisa Martinez's voice filled the small room. Jake listened to the entire message twice. When it ended, he stared at the star charts on his wall. Kepler 442b was marked with a small blue dot, barely visible among thousands of other systems. "How long ago was this sent?" Jake asked. The signal is 3 hours old, sir. At light speed, the attack probably started 6 hours ago. Jake did quick calculations in his head. Using conventional faster-than-light drives, the Vengeance could reach Kepler 442b in 4 days. The colonists would be dead long before then, but the Vengeance wasn't a conventional ship. Get me Lieutenant Rodriguez in engineering, Jake ordered. Tell him to prep the quantum drive. Beth's eyes widened. Sir, Earth Command specifically ordered no field tests of the quantum drive without prior authorization. The technology is still experimental. Earth Command isn't listening to 15,000 people begging for their lives, Jake replied. He stood and walked to his personal safe, removing a sealed data chip. Beth, I want you to record a message for Earth Command. Tell them I'm responding to a humanitarian crisis under emergency protocols. If they want to court-martial me when I get back, they're welcome to try. Jake headed for the bridge, his mind already shifting into combat mode. The USS Vengeance had been his command for 8 months, but he had never pushed her systems to their limits. Today, that would change. The bridge crew snapped to attention when Jake entered. His ship was still officially classified, built in secret shipyards beyond Neptune. Most of Earth's military didn't even know the Vengeance existed. The few who did called her a waste of resources, an expensive experiment that would never see real combat. Lieutenant Turner, plot a course for Kepler 442b, Jake ordered his tactical officer. Kyle, I want you to calculate quantum jump coordinates for maximum stealth approach. Kyle Turner's fingers flew over his console. Sir, a quantum jump of that distance has never been attempted. The stress on our hull could be catastrophic. The stress on 15,000 civilians is already catastrophic, Jake replied. Carla, how long for a quantum jump to Kepler 442b? Navigator Carla West ran the numbers twice before answering. If the quantum drive works as designed, we could be there in 18 hours, sir. But the power requirements are enormous. We'd arrive with depleted energy reserves. Better to arrive weak than not arrive at all. Sam, get down to engineering and help Rodriguez prep the quantum core. I want maximum efficiency. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez nodded and left the bridge. The quantum drive was his specialty, though. He had only tested it in computer simulations. Jake activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We have received a distress call from human colonists under attack by hostile alien forces. We are the only ship in range to provide assistance. I won't lie to you. What we're about to attempt is dangerous and unauthorized. Any crew member who objects can submit a formal protest when we return to Earth. For now, we have work to do. The Vengeance began to change course, her experimental engines building power for a jump that would either save 15,000 lives or destroy the most advanced warship humanity had ever built. In his ready room, Jake Morrison reviewed the classified files on Vextai military tactics and wondered if one ship, no matter how advanced, could make a difference against an entire battle fleet. Soon he would find out. The USS Vengeance shuddered as her quantum drive came online. Deep in the ship's engineering section, Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez watched displays that showed energy levels beyond anything he had seen in the simulations. The quantum core glowed with an eerie blue light, contained by magnetic fields that could crush a human body in seconds. Power at 60% and climbing, Sam reported through his headset. Core temperature is within acceptable limits, but barely. Chief Rick Adams stood beside him, his weathered hands dancing over backup controls. Rick had served on 15 different ships during his 30-year career, but nothing had prepared him for this. I've got emergency shutdown procedures ready, Rick said. If this thing starts to go critical, we'll have maybe 10 seconds to abort. On the bridge, Captain Jake Morrison studied the navigation display, while Carla West fine-tuned their jump coordinates. The quantum drive worked by folding space-time itself, allowing a ship to step from one point in the universe to another almost instantly. In theory, it was simple. In practice, the calculations required to avoid materializing inside a star or planet were incredibly complex. Jump coordinates locked in, Carla announced. We'll emerge 2 million kilometers from Kepler 442b on the far side of their moon. Should give us some cover for initial reconnaissance. Kyle Turner looked up from his tactical station. Captain, I've been running simulations of the Vextai fleet composition based on standard attack patterns. If they're following doctrine, they'll have their heavy cruisers in close orbit while destroyers patrol the outer system. We'll be outnumbered at least 50 to 1. Noted, Jake replied calmly. He had read every file Earth intelligence had on Vextai military tactics. The aliens were efficient and predictable, which could be either an advantage or a problem. What's our status on weapons and defenses? Chief Tony Blake, the ship's weapons officer, pulled up his display. All systems show green. Plasma cannon. Arrays are charged and ready. Quantum torpedoes are loaded in tubes 1 through 6. Point defense lasers are online. Sir, I have to ask, what exactly are we planning to do against an entire battle fleet? Jake smiled grimly. We're going to save those colonists, Tony. The details will depend on what we find when we arrive. Dr. Nina Foster entered the bridge carrying a medical kit. Captain, I need to warn you about the effects of quantum displacement. We've never tested jumps of this distance on human physiology. The crew might experience nausea, disorientation, or temporary memory loss. How long will the effects last? Jake asked. Unknown. Could be minutes, could be hours. I've prepared medications, but they're mostly guesswork at this point. In the ship's computer core, artificial intelligence systems ran millions of calculations per second. The ship's AI wasn't truly sentient, but its processing power exceeded anything in Earth's military. It constantly adjusted the quantum field generators, making tiny corrections that kept the drive stable. Captain, Sam's voice crackled through the comm system. Quantum drive at 95% power. We're ready for jump. Jake took a deep breath. Once they made this jump, there would be no going back. Earth Command would demand explanations he didn't have. The colonists at Kepler 442b were probably already under attack, and his crew was about to attempt something that could kill them. All stations prepare for quantum jump, Jake announced. Secure all loose equipment. This is going to be rough. The crew strapped themselves into their chairs as the ship's gravity generators fluctuated. Beth Young gripped her console as status reports flowed across her communication board. Every system on the ship was pushed beyond normal operating parameters. Jump in 30 seconds, Carla announced. 20 seconds, 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, jump! Reality twisted around the USS Vengeance. The stars outside didn't fade or streak like in conventional faster-than-light travel. Instead, they simply stopped existing. The ship existed in a space between spaces, where the normal rules of physics held no meaning. Dave Parker, monitoring the ship's stealth systems, watched his displays go crazy as sensors tried to process an environment that shouldn't exist. Stealth fields are fluctuating, he reported. The quantum effects are interfering with our cloaking systems. For 18 hours, the Vengeance traveled through folded space-time. The crew tried to maintain normal routines, but the quantum field affected everyone differently. Some people felt fine. Others suffered from splitting headaches or couldn't remember their own names. Dr. Foster moved through the ship, treating symptoms she had never seen before. Sam Rodriguez barely left the engineering section, constantly adjusting the quantum field to keep it stable. The calculations were so complex that even the ship's AI struggled to keep up. One wrong number could scatter the ship's atoms across half the galaxy. "How much longer?" Rick Adams asked during the 15th hour. He had been checking and rechecking every system on the ship, looking for signs of quantum stress on the hull. "3 more hours," Sam replied, wiping exhaustion from his eyes. "The quantum field is holding, but just barely. When we drop out of this jump, we're going to need at least 6 hours to recharge the drive." On the bridge, Jake reviewed intelligence files on Vextai weapons and tactics. The aliens had conquered 17 different species over the past 2 centuries. They were methodical, efficient, and utterly ruthless. Their ships were heavily armored but slower than human vessels. Their weapons were powerful but had shorter range than Earth's latest plasma cannons. "Captain," Kyle said quietly, "I've been thinking about our approach. If the Vextai are following standard siege protocol, they'll have sensor arrays watching every approach vector. A single ship might be able to slip through, but only if we're very careful." "What do you recommend?" "Hit-and-run tactics. Use our speed and stealth systems to strike fast and disappear. Make them think they're fighting a larger force than just one ship." Jake nodded. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was better than charging directly into 200 enemy warships. The Vengeance was tough, but she wasn't invincible. 10 minutes to normal space," Carla announced. "All systems, prepare for quantum emergence." The crew secured their stations once again. Emerging from quantum space was almost as dangerous as entering it. If their calculations were wrong, they could materialize inside solid matter or appear in the middle of the enemy fleet. "Quantum field destabilizing," Sam reported. "This is it. Emergency stations, everyone." The universe snapped back into existence around the USS Vengeance. Stars reappeared in their proper positions. The ship's sensors immediately began collecting data on their new environment. "Location confirmed," Carla said. "We're 2.1 million kilometers from Kepler 442b, just behind their moon as planned." "Passive sensors only," Jake ordered. "Let's see what we're dealing with before they know we're here." The tactical display slowly filled with red dots as the ship's computers identified Vextai vessels. Jake counted them grimly. 187 ships in the immediate area. More might be hidden behind the planet or patrolling the outer system. "My God," Beth whispered. "It's worse than we thought." Through the bridge windows, they could see the glow of weapons fire in the distance. The battle for Kepler 442b had already begun, and from the looks of things, the colonists were losing badly. Jake stood and straightened his uniform. "Gentlemen, ladies, we came here to save those people, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Tony, charge all weapons. Dave, bring stealth systems online. It's time to introduce the Vextai to humanity's newest warship." The USS Vengeance began moving toward the battle, her experimental systems humming with deadly purpose. The USS Vengeance drifted silently through space, her stealth systems bending light and sensor waves around her hull. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display with growing anger. The Vextai fleet had formed a perfect siege formation around Kepler 442b, methodically destroying the colony's defenses piece by piece. "Magnify Sector 7, Jake ordered. The main screen zoomed in on one of the colony's orbital defense platforms. The structure was barely recognizable, its hull torn open by repeated plasma strikes. Small explosions flickered along its surface as atmosphere vented into space. As they watched, a Vextai destroyer moved in for the killing blow, its main cannon, charging with deadly light. "Sir," Beth Young said quietly from her communications station, "I'm picking up transmissions from the colony. They're calling for civilian evacuations to the lower levels." Jake's jaw tightened. 15,000 people were trapped on that planet, while an alien armada slowly strangled them. 6 of the colony's patrol boats had already been destroyed. The remaining 2 were hiding behind the planet's larger moon, too damaged to continue fighting. "What's the status of the colony's main settlement?" Jake asked. Kyle Turner manipulated his tactical display, using long-range sensors to scan the planet's surface. "The main dome complex is still intact, but barely. The Vextai are targeting their power generators and communication arrays. They're not trying for a quick kill. They want the colonists to suffer." Dave Parker looked up from his stealth controls. "Captain, our stealth field is holding, but if we get much closer, their sensors will detect the quantum wake from our engines." Through the bridge windows, they could see individual Vextai ships moving in attack formations. The alien vessels were ugly things, all angles and armor plating, built for destruction rather than speed or elegance. Each ship bristled with weapons that could level a city. "Beth, can you establish communications with the colony without revealing our position?" "I can try a tight beam transmission, but they might not be monitoring for incoming signals. Their attention is probably focused on staying alive." "Do it." Beth's fingers moved across her console, carefully aiming a narrow communication beam toward the planet's surface. After several attempts, a crackling voice filled the bridge. "Unknown vessel. This is Colony Administrator Lisa Martinez. Please identify yourself." Jake activated the response channel. "Administrator Martinez, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Vengeance. We received your distress call." There was a long pause before Lisa's voice returned, filled with disbelief. "Captain Morrison, did you say USS Vengeance? I've never heard of that ship." "We're a classified vessel, ma'am." "What's your current situation?" "We've lost all orbital defenses. Our patrol boats are destroyed or hiding. The Vextai have been bombarding us for 6 hours, but they seem to be taking their time. I think they're trying to terrorize us before, moving in for the final attack." Jake looked around his bridge crew. Each face showed the same grim determination. They had come here to save these people no matter the cost. "Administrator Martinez, we're going to get you out of this. Do you have any underground facilities where your people can take shelter?" "Yes, the mining tunnels go deep. We're moving everyone down there now, but Captain, there's only one of you and almost 200 of them. How can you possibly—" "Leave that to us. Just keep your people safe underground until we can clear the orbital space." Jake cut the transmission and turned to his crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to take on the largest Vextai fleet in recorded history. I won't lie to you, our chances aren't good. But those people down there are counting on us." Chief Rick Adams's voice crackled through the ship's communication system. "Captain, I've finished analyzing the quantum drive stress from our jump. The good news is we can make one more long-range jump if we need to escape. The bad news is that's all. After that, we're stuck wherever we are." "Noted, Rick. How are our weapon systems?" Tony Blake ran diagnostics on his console. "All plasma cannons are charged and ready. Quantum torpedoes are loaded and armed. Point. Defense systems are online. Sir, I've been studying the Vextai ship designs. Their armor is thick, but they have weak spots around their engine compartments and sensor arrays." "Show me." The tactical display highlighted a Vextai cruiser, showing vulnerable points in red. The information would be useful, but Jake knew they couldn't destroy 200 ships by targeting weak spots one at a time. "Captain," Carla West called from navigation, "I'm detecting movement in the enemy fleet. The outer patrol ships are starting to close in on the planet. I think they're preparing for the final assault." Through the ship's external cameras, they could see plasma beams lancing down toward the planet's surface. Each strike lit up the atmosphere like deadly lightning. The colonists were running out of time. Jake made his decision. "Dave, drop stealth systems and prepare for combat approach. All stations, battle alert." Warning lights bathed the bridge, in red as the ship transitioned to combat status. Throughout the Vengeance, crew members secured their stations and prepared for battle. "Sir," Kyle said urgently, "the moment we drop stealth, every Vextai ship in the system will know we're here. They'll converge on our position within minutes." "That's the idea, Kyle. We need to draw their attention away from the planet." The Yobi stealth field around the USS Vengeance dissolved, revealing the ship to enemy sensors. Almost immediately, alarm signals began broadcasting across Vextai communication frequencies. The alien fleet started to turn toward the new threat. Beth monitored enemy transmissions, her face growing pale as she translated. "Captain, they're saying things like unknown human vessel and eliminate the intruder. But there's something else. Some of their officers seem confused about what kind of ship we are." "What do you mean?" "They're having trouble classifying us. Our design doesn't match any human ship in their databases." Jake smiled grimly. That was the point. The USS Vengeance had been built in complete secrecy, using technology the Vextai had never encountered, but surprise would only last so long. "Tony, target the nearest destroyer and prepare to fire." "Target locked, sir. Range is optimal for plasma cannons." "Fire!" The Vengeance's main gun spoke with voices of thunder. Twin plasma beams reached across space and struck the Vextai destroyer amidships. The alien vessel's shields flared and died under the assault. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull as the plasma burned through armor and into vital systems. "Direct hit," Kyle reported. "Enemy vessel is venting atmosphere and falling out of formation." But Jake's attention was already focused on the tactical display where dozens of red dots were moving toward their position. The Vextai fleet was massive, and they had just announced their presence to every ship in the system. "Incoming missiles!" Dave called out. 47 projectiles closing fast. Point defense, engage." Carla, evasive maneuvers. The Vengeance twisted through space as her point defense lasers reached out to destroy incoming missiles. Most of the weapons were stopped, but 3 got through, impacting against the ship's shields in brilliant flashes of light. "Shields at 85%, Kyle reported. "Hull integrity holding." Jake watched the enemy fleet moving toward them, like a swarm of angry insects. In a few minutes, they would be surrounded and overwhelmed. But every second the Vextai spent chasing the Vengeance was a second they weren't bombarding the colony. "Beth, send a message to Administrator Martinez. Tell her to keep her people underground. This is going to get worse before it gets better." The USS Vengeance prepared to face impossible odds, her crew ready to fight to the last breath to protect 15,000 innocent lives. Captain Jake Morrison watched the Vextai fleet closing in from all directions and made a decision that would either save his ship or destroy it. Instead of fighting the conventional battle the aliens expected, he would give them something they had never faced before: human creativity. "All stop," Jake ordered. "Cut main engines." The bridge crew looked at him with confusion. Kyle Turner spoke what everyone was thinking. "Sir, if we stop moving, they'll surround us in minutes." That's exactly what I want them to think. Jake activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, we're about to begin unconventional combat operations. Trust your training and follow orders exactly. Our survival depends on it." He turned to Dave Parker at the Stealth Systems console. "Dave, I need you to do something that's not in any manual. Can you activate partial stealth? Just enough to confuse their sensors without completely hiding us?" Dave's fingers hesitated over his controls. "Sir, partial stealth creates sensor. Ghosts. Their computers won't know where we really are, but neither will ours." "Perfect. Do it." As the stealth field partially engaged, the Vengeance became a ghost ship, visible but not quite real. Enemy sensors showed the human vessel in multiple locations at once, creating a cloud of false targets. "Carla," Jake continued, "plot a course that takes us behind that asteroid cluster. Maximum acceleration, but kill the engines before we reach it." Navigator Carla West looked at her display, calculating trajectories. "Sir, if we coast through the asteroids with no power, we'll be nearly invisible to their sensors." "Exactly." "Tony, prepare quantum torpedoes. I want minimum power signatures until we're ready to fire." The USS Vengeance suddenly burst into motion, her engines burning at maximum power for 30 seconds before going completely dark. The ship coasted silently toward a cluster of space rocks, seeming to vanish among the shadows. The Vextai fleet converged on the Vengeance's last known position, their formation tight and efficient. Commander Vexhai Korthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching sensor displays with growing frustration. "Where is the human vessel?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander," his sensor operator replied. "Our instruments show multiple contacts, but they cannot all be real ships." "It is a trick," Korthak hissed. "Spread the fleet. Search every asteroid, every shadow. One small human ship cannot hide from the might of the Empire." But the USS Vengeance was doing exactly that. Drifting powerless through the asteroid field, her hull cooled to match the temperature of space rock around her. Only her life support systems remained active, running on battery power. "Sir," Beth whispered, monitoring Vextai communications, "they're dividing their fleet to search for us. Looks like they're breaking into groups of 10 ships each." Jake smiled in the darkness of the bridge. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows. As he watched the tactical display, the Vextai were doing exactly what he hoped they would do, splitting their overwhelming numerical advantage into smaller, manageable groups. "Wait for my signal," Jake told his crew. "When we strike, it has to be fast and decisive." 20 minutes passed before a group of Vextai destroyers entered the asteroid field. Their powerful searchlights swept through the rocks, looking for any sign of the human ship. They moved in perfect formation, just as their training manuals specified. "Target the lead ship," Jake whispered to Tony Blake. "One torpedo, maximum. Yield." "Target locked," Tony confirmed, his voice barely audible. "Fire." The quantum torpedo launched silently from the Vengeance's darkened hull, its exotic matter warhead invisible to Vextai sensors. It struck the lead destroyer before the aliens even knew they were under attack. The ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized by energies that turned matter into pure light. "Emergency power to engines," Jake ordered. "Get us out of here." The Vengeance burst from the asteroid field like an angry spirit, her plasma cannons already firing at the confused Vextai ships. 2 more destroyers died before they could react, their hulls splitting open under the assault. "All ships, "Converge on the asteroid field," Commander Korthak ordered. But the human vessel was already gone, vanishing into the darkness of space. For the next 3 hours, Jake Morrison conducted a masterclass in guerrilla warfare. The Vengeance would appear without warning, strike fast and hard, then disappear before the enemy could respond. She used the planet's magnetic field to hide her energy signature. She lurked in the shadow of the system's gas giant, emerging only to destroy isolated enemy ships. "How many have we destroyed?" Jake asked during a brief pause behind the planet's smaller moon. Kyle checked his tactical display. 17 confirmed. "Kills, sir. 8 more ships heavily damaged. But, Captain, we're starting to take damage ourselves." It was true. The Vengeance's shields were down to 60%, and her hull showed scorch marks from near misses. More importantly, they were running low on ammunition. "Tony, what's our torpedo status?" 14 quantum torpedoes remaining, sir. At this rate, we'll be out of heavy weapons within 2 hours. Jake studied the tactical display, counting enemy ships. They had reduced the Vextai fleet from nearly 200 vessels to about 170. It was progress, but not nearly enough. "Sir," Dave called from his station, "I'm reading massive energy buildup from the enemy flagship. I think they're preparing some kind of super weapon." Through the bridge windows, they could see the Vextai command ship in the distance. It was 3 times larger than any other vessel in their fleet, bristling with weapons and sensor arrays. Energy discharges flickered along its hull as it powered up systems that had never been used before. "Beth, what are you hearing on their communications?" "Commander Korthak is ordering all ships to cease pursuit operations. He's targeting the planet directly, sir. They're going to bombard the entire surface." Jake felt ice in his stomach. The colonists were safe in their underground tunnels for now, but a sustained bombardment from that superweapon could crack the planet's crust. 15,000 people would die in an earthquake that reached all the way to the planet's core. "New plan," Jake announced. "We're going to stop that flagship before it can fire." "Sir," Kyle protested, "that ship is surrounded by at least 50 escorts. It's suicide." Maybe. But those colonists didn't ask to be heroes, and they sure didn't ask to die. "Carla, plot an intercept course for the flagship. Maximum speed." "Course." "Plotted, sir." "Dave, drop all stealth systems. I want them to see us coming." "Sir, if we're going to die, we're going to do it fighting. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to attempt something that history will either call the bravest or the stupidest action in space combat. Either way, those people on Kepler 442b will know that somebody tried to save them." The USS Vengeance turned toward the enemy. Flagship, her engines burning bright against the darkness of space. Behind her, she left a trail of destroyed Vextai ships and a reputation that would outlive them all. The real battle was about to begin. The USS Vengeance raced through space toward the Vextai flagship, her hull glowing from engine heat and weapons discharge. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the tactical display as 50 enemy ships moved to intercept them. This was the moment he had trained for his entire career, even though he had never imagined it would come like this. "Distance to flagship?" Jake asked. 400,000 kilometers and closing, Carla West replied from navigation. "At current speed, we'll reach weapons range in 8 minutes. "Sir," Kyle Turner called from tactical, "the escort ships are forming a defensive wall. They're going to try to stop us before we can get close to their command vessel." Jake nodded grimly. He had expected this. The Vextai were predictable in their tactics, which was both their strength and their weakness. They always followed the same patterns, the same formations. "Tony, It's time to show them what the Vengeance can really do. Activate the experimental weapon systems. Chief Tony Blake's hands moved across his weapons console, entering authorization codes that had never been used in combat. Deep within, the ship's armored hull, systems came online that existed nowhere else in the human fleet. Plasma cannon arrays charging to maximum yield, Tony reported. Quantum torpedo tubes loaded with experimental warheads. Sir, are you sure about this? These weapons have never been tested in actual combat. Today we test everything, Jake replied. What's the power output? Plasma cannons are showing energy levels 3 times higher than standard military specifications. If we fire at full power, we risk burning out the weapon systems completely. Do it anyway. The first line of Vextai defenders opened fire when the Vengeance reached maximum range. Dozens of plasma beams and missile volleys reached across space, trying to stop the human ship before it could reach their flagship. The Vengeance's point defense systems worked frantically, shooting down incoming missiles while her shields absorbed. The energy weapons. Shields down to 40%, Kyle reported as explosions lit up the space around them. Return fire, Jake ordered. The USS Vengeance unleashed hell. Her plasma cannons, operating far beyond safe parameters, sent beams of superheated matter that cut through Vextai shields like they were made of paper. The first enemy ship simply evaporated under the assault. Its hull turned to expanding gas in milliseconds. Direct hit on Target 2, Tony called out. Target 3 is breaking apart. Target 4 is... My God, sir, we just punched a hole clean through their hull. But the Vengeance was taking damage too. A Vextai heavy cruiser managed to score a direct hit on her port side, sending shock waves through the ship's frame. Emergency lights flickered as power conduits overloaded. Hull breach on Deck 7, came Rick Adams's voice from engineering. Emergency force fields are holding, but we've lost 2 plasma cannon arrays on the port side. Dr. Nina Foster moved through the ship's corridors, treating wounded crew members as the vessel shook under enemy fire. In the medical bay, she worked on a technician whose console had exploded, burning half his face. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated as power was rerouted to weapons and shields. How many escort ships left? Jake asked, gripping his command chair as another impact shook the bridge. 32, Kyle replied. But sir, look at this. The tactical display showed something unexpected. The remaining Vextai ships were no longer advancing in their perfect formation. Some had stopped entirely, while others were actually backing away from the human vessel. Beth, what are their communications saying? Beth Young listened to the alien transmissions, her face growing amazed. Sir, they're reporting that we're using weapons technology they've never seen before. Some of their ship commanders are requesting permission to withdraw. Withdraw? Jake couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Vextai had conquered 17 different species. They had never retreated from a battle. Their ships are designed to fight enemies with similar technology, Kyle realized. They've never faced plasma cannons this powerful or quantum torpedoes that can punch through their armor like it doesn't exist. On the bridge of the Vextai flagship, Commander Korthak watched his escort fleet being destroyed by a single human ship. His sensor officers reported weapon signatures unlike anything in their databases. His tactical computers couldn't calculate how the human vessel was generating so much firepower. All ships maintain formation, Korthak ordered, but his voice lacked its usual confidence. Prepare the planet-killer weapon. If we cannot stop this ship, we will complete our mission and destroy the human colony. Jake saw the energy build up on his tactical display. The flagship's superweapon was almost ready to fire. They had perhaps 2 minutes before it would send a beam capable of cracking Kepler 442b's crust. All power to engines, Jake ordered. I want maximum speed. Sir, if we divert power from shields, the escort ships will tear us apart, Kyle warned. Then we'd better destroy them first. Tony, load quantum torpedoes in all tubes. Set them for maximum yield. All tubes loaded, sir. Fire everything. 6 quantum torpedoes launch simultaneously from the Vengeance's forward tubes. Each warhead contained exotic matter that existed at the edge of known physics. When they struck their targets, the results were spectacular. 5 Vextai ships simply ceased to exist, their atoms scattered across space. The 6th torpedo struck a heavy cruiser and turned it inside out, creating a brief spatial anomaly that sucked nearby debris into nothingness. The surviving escort ships scattered in panic. Vextai military doctrine had no procedures for dealing with weapons that violated their understanding of physics. Clear path to the flagship, Carla reported. But Jake could see they were too late. The massive Vextai command ship's superweapon was fully charged, its targeting computers locked onto the planet below. In 30 seconds, it would fire. Sam, Jake called down to engineering. I need everything the quantum drive has left. One more burst of speed. Sir, the quantum core is already stressed from our jump here. If I push it any harder, it might explode. Do it anyway. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez looked at the quantum core's containment readings and made a decision that would either save 15,000 lives or kill everyone on the USS Vengeance. He overrode every safety protocol and fed power directly from the core to the ship's engines. The Vengeance leaped forward like a comet, covering the remaining distance. To the flagship in seconds, Tony Blake didn't wait for orders. He fired every remaining weapon the ship possessed directly into the Vextai command vessel's weapon array. The flagship's superweapon exploded in a chain reaction that lit up space like a newborn star. The Vextai command ship built to withstand anything in their military arsenal, cracked in half under the assault from weapons it was never designed to face. Flagship destroyed, Kyle reported, his voice filled with amazement. Sir, we actually did it. But their victory had come at a cost. The Vengeance's quantum core was failing. Her hull was breached in a dozen places, and half her weapons were offline. Around them, the surviving Vextai fleet was regrouping, their initial panic replaced by cold fury. Damage report, Jake ordered. We're in bad shape, sir. Rick's voice came from engineering. Life support is failing on 3 decks. The quantum drive is completely offline. We've got maybe 20 minutes of power left. Jake looked at the tactical display. They had destroyed the flagship and saved the colony from the superweapon, but 60 Vextai ships still surrounded them. The USS Vengeance had fought the impossible battle and won, but now they faced the aftermath. The real test was just beginning. The USS Vengeance drifted in space, her hull scarred and smoking from the battle with the Vextai flagship. Around them, 60 alien warships moved into attack formation, their weapons charging for what they believed would be the final assault. But Captain Jake Morrison wasn't ready to give up. Beth, open a channel to the planet, Jake ordered. It's time the colonists knew what's happening up here. Channel open, sir. Administrator Martinez, this is Captain Morrison. We've destroyed the Vextai flagship and stopped their superweapon, but we're heavily damaged. How are things on your end? Lisa Martinez's voice crackled through the static. Captain, most of our people are safe in the underground tunnels, but we still have some surface installations operating. Our sensor arrays show the alien fleet is still huge. What can we do to help? Jake looked around his bridge crew. They were exhausted, wounded, but still fighting. An idea began forming in his mind. Lisa, do you still have control of your mining equipment? Yes. Most of it is automated and runs on independent power systems. Why? I need you to activate every piece of mining equipment you have. Extractors, haulers, processing plants, everything. Make as much noise and energy as possible. There was confusion in Lisa's voice. Captain, I don't understand. How will that help? Trust me, just do it. Down on the planet's surface, Lisa Martinez ran through the colony's control center, her fingers flying over consoles as she activated systems that had been shut down for safety. Danny Brooks helped her bring the massive mining extractors online, their fusion reactors blazing to life. Lisa, what are you doing? Danny asked. This is making us a bigger target. The captain has a plan, Lisa replied, though she wasn't sure what it was. In space, the Vextai fleet paused as their sensors detected massive energy signatures from the planet's surface. To their instruments, it looked like the human colony was powering up defensive systems they didn't know existed. Sir, Kyle Turner reported from the Vengeance's tactical station, the Vextai ships are hesitating. They're running new sensor sweeps on the planet. Jake smiled grimly. The aliens were seeing exactly what he wanted them to see. Dave, can you generate any kind of false sensor readings? Make it look like we have reinforcements coming? Dave Parker's fingers moved across his damaged console. I can try, sir. The stealth systems are mostly offline, but I might be able to create some ghost signatures. Do it. Make it look like a full Earth battle fleet is approaching from the outer system. The Vextai fleet commanders watched their displays with growing concern. Sensor ghosts appeared at the edge of the star system, moving inward at high speed. The energy signatures from the planet suggested the humans had been hiding significant military assets, and the single ship that had destroyed their flagship was still operational, despite the damage it had taken. On the bridge of the new Vextai, command ship. Sub-Commander Vorthak studied the tactical situation. He had inherited command when the flagship was destroyed, and the responsibility weighed heavily on him. The humans were proving far more dangerous than intelligence reports had suggested. Sub-Commander, his sensor operator reported, we are detecting multiple contacts approaching from the system perimeter. Configuration unknown, but they match human energy signatures. Vorthak hissed in frustration. A single human ship had already cost them 40 vessels and their most powerful flagship. If Earth had sent an entire battle fleet, his remaining ships might not survive the encounter. Sir, came another report, the human colony on the planet is powering up what appear to be defensive installations. Energy output is enormous. But it was what happened next that truly turned the tide of battle. On Kepler 442b's surface, the colonists began to fight back. Danny Brooks had spent 12 years working with the colony's industrial equipment. He knew every system, every control, every way to make the massive machines do things they weren't designed to do. Lisa, Danny called out, I can turn the mining lasers into weapons. They're not military grade, but they'll reach orbit. Do it, Lisa replied without hesitation. The planet's surface lit up with industrial lasers that had been designed to cut through solid rock. Danny redirected them toward the Vextai ships in low orbit, their cutting beams slicing through alien hulls, like they were made of foil. It wasn't precise, and it wasn't elegant, but it was effective. Enemy ships in low orbit are taking damage, Kyle reported with amazement. The colonists are fighting back with their mining equipment. Dr. Amy Sullivan had organized the medical staff and civilian volunteers into damage control teams. They couldn't fight in space, but they could keep the colony's vital systems running while the miners turned their tools into weapons. Captain Morrison, Amy's voice came through the communication system, we've got 20 mining haulers that can reach orbit. They're not warships, but they're big, and they've got industrial manipulator arms. Jake understood immediately. Send them up. Have them target the smallest Vextai ships. The mining haulers were ungainly craft, built for moving asteroids and raw materials. But in space, mass was a weapon all by itself. The first hauler to reach orbit simply rammed a Vextai corvette, its massive bulk crushing the smaller ship like an egg. "Sir," Beth reported, "I'm monitoring Vextai communications. They're reporting heavy casualties and requesting immediate reinforcements. Some ship commanders are asking permission to withdraw." Sub-Commander Vorthak watched his fleet being attacked from multiple directions. The human reinforcements were getting closer. The planet's surface bristled with weapons he hadn't known existed. And somewhere in the chaos, that single devastating human warship was still operational. "All ships," Vorthak ordered, "begin withdrawal to minimum safe distance. Maintain defensive formation." But as the Vextai fleet began to pull back, Jake Morrison saw his opportunity. "All remaining power to engines. We're going after them." "Sir," Rick Adams called from engineering, "we barely have life support. If we push the engines now, we might lose everything. Those ships are running scared for the first time in their history. We need to keep the pressure on." The USS Vengeance surged forward, her damaged engines straining to deliver power. She fired her remaining weapons at the retreating Vextai ships, each shot carefully aimed at the most damaged vessels. 3 more alien ships exploded under the assault. On the planet's surface, Lisa Martinez watched the tactical displays with growing hope. The alien fleet that had seemed unstoppable just hours ago was now retreating from human space. The miners and engineers who had come to Kepler 442b looking for a peaceful life had become warriors, defending their home with whatever tools they could find. "Danny," Lisa said, "how many ships have we destroyed?" "Counting the ones, the Vengeance. Got in our mining equipment kills, maybe 60 or 70. But there are still over 100 alien ships out there." Lisa nodded. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time since the aliens arrived, she believed they might actually survive. The tide had turned, and humanity was proving that it wouldn't go quietly into the night. In space, Captain Jake Morrison prepared for the next phase of the fight, knowing that his damaged ship and the brave colonists below had already achieved the impossible. Now they just had to finish what they had started. Sub-Commander Vorthak stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching his fleet fall apart around him. In 6 hours of combat, the Vextai force had been reduced from nearly 200 vessels to barely 90. The humans had turned what should have been a simple conquest into a nightmare of advanced weapons and impossible tactics. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 ship commanders. Their vessels are too damaged to continue fighting." Vorthak's claws clicked against his command console. In 2 centuries of Vextai expansion, no fleet had ever requested permission to surrender. The Empire conquered others. It was never conquered itself. "Denied," Vorthak hissed. "All ships will maintain combat formation. We retreat in order." But order was exactly what the Vextai fleet no longer possessed. The appearance of human reinforcements on their sensors, combined with the devastating firepower of the USS Vengeance and the unexpected resistance from the planet's surface, had shattered their confidence. Ship commanders who had never questioned orders were now making their own decisions about survival. Captain Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet's formation begin to collapse. Some ships were pulling back toward the system's edge. Others were trying to regroup around their command vessel. A few had simply stopped moving, their crews apparently debating whether to continue fighting. "Kyle, what's our ammunition status?" Jake asked. 7 quantum torpedoes remaining, sir. Plasma cannons are at 60% charge. We can fight, but not for much longer." Jake studied the tactical display, counting enemy vessels. They had hurt the Vextai badly, but 90 ships was still overwhelming odds. Unless... Beth, patch me through to the Vextai command frequency. Sir, are you going to offer terms? Kyle asked. Something like that. Jake waited for the communication link to establish. Vextai Commander, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Vengeance. I want to discuss your surrender. There was a long pause before Sub-Commander Vorthak's translated voice filled the bridge. Human Captain, you are outnumbered 10-1. It is you who should surrender. Look around you, Commander. Your flagship is debris. You've lost more than half your fleet to one damaged human ship and a bunch of miners with industrial equipment. How do you think this ends when my reinforcements arrive? Jake was bluffing about the reinforcements, but the Vextai didn't know that. Dave Parker's sensor ghosts were still showing false contacts approaching from the outer system. Your reinforcements are phantom readings, Vorthak replied, but Jake could hear uncertainty in the alien's voice. Are you willing to bet what's left of your fleet on that? You came here expecting to slaughter defenseless colonists. Instead, you found Earth's newest warship waiting for you. What do you think Earth Command sent when they learned about this attack? On the planet's surface, Lisa Martinez listened to the conversation with growing amazement. The captain was negotiating with the alien commander as if he held all the advantages, despite being vastly outnumbered. Commander, Jake continued, I'm going to give you one chance to leave this system with your surviving ships. Take it. The Empire does not negotiate with lesser species, Vorthak snarled. Then the Empire is about to lose another 70 ships. Your choice. Jake cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Tony, target their command ship with everything we have left. If they want to fight, we'll give them a fight they'll never forget. But something unexpected happened. Instead of attacking, the Vextai fleet began to split apart. Some ships moved toward the USS Vengeance, their weapons charging for a final assault. Others started heading for the edge of the system, abandoning the battle entirely. Sir, Kyle reported, it looks like the alien fleet is fragmenting. About 30 ships are withdrawing. The rest are forming up for an attack. They're having a breakdown in command structure, Jake realized. Some commanders want to retreat, others want to keep fighting. Beth, monitor their communications. Beth listened to the chaos on Vextai frequencies. Sir, there's a lot of arguing. Ship commanders are questioning orders, demanding explanations for their losses. I think their military discipline is collapsing. It was exactly what Jake had hoped for. The Vextai were used to overwhelming their enemies with superior numbers and firepower. When that failed, their rigid command structure became a weakness instead of a strength. All ships, advance and engage the human vessel, Vorthak ordered, but only 40 ships responded to his command. The others continued their retreat toward the system's edge. Jake made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. The retreating ships would escape to warn the Vextai Empire about Earth's new weapons technology. They would bring back larger fleets, better prepared for human tactics. The only way to protect not just Kepler 442b but all human colonies was to ensure no survivors escaped. Carla, intercept course for the retreating ships. Maximum speed. Sir, Dr. Foster's voice came through the medical bay. We have wounded crew members who need immediate treatment. The ship can't take much more damage. I know, Nina. We'll get them help as soon as we finish this. The USS Vengeance turned away from the main Vextai force and accelerated toward the fleeing ships. Her damaged engines screamed in protest, but they delivered the power Jake needed. Tony, fire as we pass. Don't let any of those ships escape. The Vengeance swept through the retreating Vextai vessels like an avenging angel. her plasma cannons, and remaining torpedoes reached out across space, destroying ship after ship. Some aliens tried to fight back, but their vessels were already damaged and their crews demoralized. 15 ships destroyed, Kyle reported. 10 more heavily damaged. The rest are scattering. But the main Vextai force was now closing in from behind. 40 ships against one damaged human vessel. The odds were still impossible. "Sir," Sam Rodriguez called from engineering, "I'm reading massive power fluctuations in the quantum core. The containment field is failing. If it goes critical..." "How long do we have?" "Maybe 10 minutes, sir. After that, the explosion will take out everything within 1,000 kilometers. Jake looked at the tactical display one more time. 40 Vextai ships were closing in for the kill. His own vessel was falling apart around him, but in the distance, he could see Kepler 442b, its blue-green surface still beautiful despite the scars of battle. "All hands, this is the captain. We've accomplished our mission. The colony is safe, and we've shown the galaxy that Earth will not abandon its people. If we don't make it home, know that you've served with honor." The USS Vengeance turned to face her final battle, her crew ready to fight to the end for 15,000 colonists they had never met, but would die to protect. The last act of the Battle of Kepler 442b was about to begin. The USS Vengeance faced 40 Vextai warships, with her quantum core failing, and her crew exhausted beyond measure. Captain Jake Morrison stood on his damaged bridge, watching the aliens close in for what they believed would be the final kill. But Jake had one last card to play. "Sam," he called down to engineering, "instead of containing the quantum core failure, can you channel it through our weapon systems?" There was a pause before Sam Rodriguez replied, his voice uncertain. "Sir, that's completely theoretical. The energy release could destroy us along with everything else in the area. Right now, that might be our best option. Do it." In the engineering section, Sam looked at the failing quantum containment field and began rerouting power conduits in ways that violated every safety protocol he had ever learned. The quantum core's exotic energy, normally contained by magnetic fields, was now being fed directly into the ship's weapon arrays. "Captain," Tony Blake reported from weapons control, "I'm reading power levels that shouldn't be possible. The plasma cannons are showing energy output beyond anything I've ever seen." "Range to enemy fleet?" Jake asked. 200,000 kilometers and closing," Kyle Turner replied. "Sir, they're spreading out to surround us. Classic Vextai finishing. Maneuver!" Jake watched the tactical display as the alien ships moved into position. They were being careful now, having learned to respect the Vengeance's firepower. But caution would not save them from what was coming. "All stations, prepare for final engagement. Tony, when I give the order, fire everything at once." The Vextai ships opened fire first, their plasma beams and missiles reaching across space toward the damaged human vessel. The Vengeance's shields, already weakened, began to fail under the assault. Explosions rocked the ship as enemy fire found its mark. "Shields down," Kyle reported. "We're taking direct hits to the hull." "Now, Tony, fire everything." The USS Vengeance unleashed the power of a dying star. Quantum energy, channeled through her weapon systems, created plasma beams that turned space itself into a weapon. The leading Vextai ships simply evaporated under the assault, their matter converted to pure energy in milliseconds. "Direct hits on 12 targets," Kyle called out in amazement. 15 ships destroyed, 8 more heavily damaged. But the energy release was tearing the Vengeance apart from the inside. Conduits exploded throughout the ship as quantum energy overloaded every system. In the medical bay, Dr. Nina Foster worked frantically to treat crew members suffering from radiation exposure. "Hull breach on decks 4 through 7, Rick Adams reported. Emergency force fields are failing. We're losing life support. Sub-Commander Vorthak watched 15 more of his ships die in seconds and finally understood what he was facing. This wasn't just an advanced human warship. It was something beyond anything the Vextai Empire had encountered in 2 centuries of conquest. All ships, full retreat, Vorthak ordered. Maximum speed to the system edge. The remaining 25 Vextai vessels turned and fled, their crews no longer caring about military honor or imperial conquest. They had seen their entire fleet destroyed by a single enemy ship, and survival was now their only concern. They're running, Kyle reported. All remaining enemy ships are heading for the system perimeter. Jake watched the aliens flee and made the hardest decision of his command. Let them go, or ensure they could never report back to their empire about human capabilities. Carla, pursuit course. We're going to finish this. Sir, Dr. Foster called from medical, we have 17 crew, members with severe radiation poisoning. They need immediate treatment at a fully equipped medical facility. Nina, I'm sorry. We can't let those ships escape. The USS Vengeance, her hull cracked and her systems failing, pursued the fleeing Vextai fleet. One by one, her weapons reached out to destroy the alien ships. Some tried to fight back, but their morale was completely broken. Others simply accepted their fate. Last enemy ship destroyed, Kyle announced 20 minutes later. Sir, we did it. We actually did it. But victory had come at a terrible cost. The Vengeance was dying around them, her quantum core finally exhausted, and her life support systems failing. Emergency lights flickered as the ship drifted in space, barely holding together. All hands, abandon ship, Jake ordered. Get to the escape pods. Sir, Beth protested, the escape pods don't have enough range to reach the planet. Then we'll have to hope someone comes looking for us. Down on Kepler 442b, Lisa Martinez had watched the final battle through the colony's sensors. When the last Vextai ship was destroyed, the colonists erupted in celebration. They had survived the impossible. Danny, Lisa called to the chief engineer, prep every shuttle and transport we have. There are survivors up there who need our help. For the next 6 hours, colony ships raced through space to collect escape pods from the USS Vengeance. Captain Jake Morrison was among the last to abandon his ship, staying aboard until every crew member was safely away. When the rescue shuttles brought them to the planet's surface, 15,000 colonists were waiting to welcome the heroes, who had saved their lives. Children who had hidden in underground tunnels now ran to greet the crew members who had fought impossible odds to protect them. Dr. Amy Sullivan worked alongside Dr. Foster to treat the wounded crew members, while Danny, Brooks helped repair equipment that had been damaged in the battle. The mining colony that had seemed so vulnerable just days ago was now buzzing with activity as humans proved once again that they were stronger together than apart. 3 weeks later, Earth Command arrived with a full battle fleet, expecting to find a destroyed colony and a dead crew. Instead, they found a thriving settlement and a story that would be told throughout human space for generations. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the colony's main square, watching children play among the memorial stones that now marked the battle site. Each stone bore the name of a crew member who had died defending people they had never met. Captain, Lisa Martinez said, approaching with a datapad, the Colony Council has voted. We want to name our settlement Morrison City in honor of what you and your crew did for us. Jake shook his head. Name it after your people, Lisa. They're the ones who turned mining equipment into weapons and hauled ore ships into space to ram alien warships. They're the real heroes here. We all are, Lisa replied. That's what makes us human. As Jake looked up at the stars, he knew that word of the battle would spread throughout the galaxy. The Vextai Empire would think twice before attacking human colonies again. Other species would learn that Earth protected its own, no matter the cost. The USS Vengeance was gone, her wreckage scattered across space. But her legacy would live on in every human who refused to surrender, in every colony that stood firm against impossible odds, and in the knowledge that when humanity's children called for help, someone would always answer. The Battle of Kepler, 442b, was over, but the legend of the ship that appeared when no help was supposed to come had just begun.